So let's do this. What's going on, guys? We're back to you with another awesome episode that is just made in real time. Curtis is going to record this as well. So
It's actually not letting me record yet.
he's letting you now as a host. Maybe? No, I don't know. I really don't.
Now it is. Okay, cool, man.
Cool.
We're good to go now.
Awesome. So, guys, show's never scripted, which is really awesome. It's just kind of cool. So, because of that, today we have a tremendous guest. His name is Curtis. I know we've had on guys that have raised billions of dollars. We've collaborated with these like large TV networks, whatever it is. A lot of people that have created a lot of success in their life. Curtis is very successful. Today, he's gonna talk a little bit about himself, but I'm gonna give him an introduction. Just if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Curtis himself is a very good leader. He's very good at developing other leaders. He's had a track record of that over time. He's beat brain cancer. He's been able to really explode his finances. You get me? He loves God, by the way. He's an American, by the way. I was born in Miami. So
Oh, nice.
yeah. So after launching companies in medical, fashion, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, distribution, Curtis, he's running websites and a lot of social media right now. Groups where he encourages other entrepreneurs to achieve success in their own lives and being able to just build other leaders throughout that. So I love this podcast because it's free. Curtis could probably charge you like $1,000. You get me for like an episode where you get a mind shift. But if I asked you how much is your life worth to you, you probably wouldn't be able to give me an adequate price because your life is priceless, right? Which really is, just given freely in the spirit. So I'm really happy that we're here. We're collaborating. I love self-investing. I love reading books. I'm excited to have you, by the way.
Sure appreciate
Not
it.
really scripted, so I have a couple of questions, but can you tell me a little bit about your story? When is it that you broke out of your traditional uh, programming, how it's taught to us in NLP, where a lot of the time we're taught that we have to do certain things, you get me, or it has to be a certain way when everyone in the world is already the most important, most valuable thing in the world, period, you get me? And then it's just the world, which is very worldly, that tries to do Z, Y, X, X, Y, Z. It doesn't really matter. And knowing that, um, can you share with me, please? When is it that you broke out of your social programming? When is it that you started to develop your success mindset? Then you also beat brain cancer. God helped you get that victory. All good things come from heaven, it says in the Bible. And you were able to just really break a lot of stuff that was in the past. And you had this new future, you had this transformation really, and you being able to share that with other guests, essentially, that have made you the success that you are, and being able to just help other leaders develop, essentially.
I love that. That's a great question and great lead in there. So one of the big things for me, I started out, I grew up in a really rough household. I haven't talked about this a lot. I haven't talked about this a lot until recently because, growing up, I spent years with, I had, a very abusive situation where I was growing up with, to the point where my dad literally had told me to, he called me for years saying, you're a waste of skin, you're a waste of oxygen. And at one point, handed me a loaded pistol, told me to do the world a favor, meaning end your life, commit suicide. And I didn't ever talk about that because, you hear the story of, where people say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, or they think that you're going to be an abuser, you're going to be the same kind of a dirtbag that you grew up with. And so I didn't ever really talk about that, but I'm starting to more now because as I'm influencing other leaders, and especially young entrepreneurs, I want to share that, whatever you grew up with doesn't mean you have to follow in that same pattern.
Then how was it that you were able to build your self-esteem and your identity the way that it is now? Because I saw you went to church the other day on Sunday, you get me. And I don't know about you, man, but every time that I've done business, I don't know why, but my business dealings are always best when I'm with faith-filled people. I don't know if you've experienced that. I don't know, but it's been my history and track record with your story. When was it that you broke out of the lies and like just stuff that was not true, and you realize, you get me, I'm impacting and inspiring other people just like throughout the world on a global reach? So how could other people do that? How did you break out of that? Because that's breaking, you get me, it's a program that is there, so and then you reshifted it, you took control, and you decided to improve that area of your life, that skill set in your life, in any area.
So one of the things for me, my my latest big accomplishment as far as something I'm really known for is my book, How to Be Successful, Think Like a Leader. It's a bestseller in 9 separate categories on Amazon, global distribution in Walmart and Barnes and Noble and all the major, pretty much every major retailer, libraries carry it and everything. But people see that, they see that as a level of success, or, that's kind of what people recognize me for. But I'm still in a constant process of growth and trying to become the person that God meant me to be. And I don't think we ever actually get there. It's kind of a constant pursuit until you die. But to become successful, you need to constantly be chasing after something else, chasing after personal development, personal growth, trying to figure out who you were actually determined, who you're actually meant to be. We were created in the image of the God that created the entire universe. And he created us in his image. He didn't create the donkey or the fish or the turtle or the tree in his image. He created you. And so for me, that was a big thing to start realizing that, you know, my dad may have said, that I'm a waste of skin, I'm worthless, those type of things. But God thinks that I'm amazing because he created me in his own image. And I'm still trying to continuously grow and improve, but that's one of the biggest things that even with, I'm consulting with very successful leaders, business leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, even young folks that are just getting started. And a lot of times you don't realize that even these super successful multimillionaire folks are still have stuff that they're dealing with from their, the past, whether it was an abusive wife or husband or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. We've all got that stuff that we're struggling with, but kind of trying to help folks to understand that, if you're focusing on the future and what you can become, you're always going to do better.
And then, so with that, you get me, how did you tap into that? Like, what was the first book? Like, what was your epiphany, your awakening when you started to like be unveiled from the world and you started discovering, you get me, the truth, what was real, you get me, in even being able to become successful, right? And you get me with like and then you just realize that there's something completely different, right? And then everything kept leading you maybe to one out, but yours,
So one of the things that really helped out a lot
if you
when
please.
I was 13 years old, I started. We hadn't been able to see my mom for quite a few years because my dad was keeping us separated, and I make it to where we couldn't really tell anybody, and if you told, you got punished for it. But I started saving up. I got $1.75 a day for my lunch, for the school lunch plan, and so I would take that $1.75, and instead of buying school lunch, I would take 25 cents of that and buy a cup of Jello, save $1.50 a day, and just put that aside. Whether that was for being able to get a stamp to mail my mom a letter, or different stuff like that, where at least stay connected. But I started saving up that money, and I would sneak out of school during lunch break, and I'd run to the local used bookstore. And one of the books that I absolutely love was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I mean, this, you see, I've went through this quite a few times, different, there's all kinds of different colors
Pretty
of
worn
highlighters and
down.
stuff. But that was one of the ones that really changed my life as a young kid and helped me to understand that you don't have to become the person that you were, the example you're being raised by. So that was a good book that really helped me start connecting with other folks. And I read, literally hundreds of books, averaging over 6 books a month. I've done that for years, and but that's probably the one that I'd recommend. If you're just trying to figure out how do I become a person that people like, a person of influence, people that how to overcome those inabilities to connect with folks, would be that how to win friends and influence people. And also, I would highly recommend, if you got a copy, not just because it's my book, but How to Be Successful, Think Like a Leader. I interviewed all kinds of successful entrepreneurs and business owners, the guy that invented the MP3 player, Navy SEAL team sniper, church leaders, also a ex-convict, ex-felon, who has now turned his life around and become successful. Kind of shared some different insights on leadership, how to be a leader, how to be successful. That's a
That,
couple of books I'd recommend.
that's so much like wisdom. I so many more questions for you, by the way. Um,
I got time for you.
this is awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. McCoy. Thank you, Curtis. Um, when it comes to being able to develop your leadership mentality, like a war general essentially, and us, you get me, being able to for yourself have the victory in your destiny and your purpose, that we all have a responsibility to really accomplish, and you've been multiplying your talents. And so you started saving up for Jello. What were because of the Jello, get me, with the extra 25 cents you put aside and you had 150, you'd always save up, and that
Yeah,
compounded.
yeah.
When was it that you started to begin to develop, you get me, even more than that, like the next process or the next step in that allowed you to become who you are today? You, as Barnes and Nobles, having your own TV show, lights, cameras, like people learning from you essentially. And it's just how were you able to do that? Then you were able to develop your self-esteem, and now you're helping other people on the outside essentially through your books, through your works, through speaking, and helping them unlock the limitless potential of them shining bright. How what what when did this start, I guess, happening more, when you started aligning your thoughts and you started to see that there's more to the world? Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And you probably had a couple of moments where it's like, oh my God, like in your own way, where it might have been hyper emotional, but because you discovered truth and freedom and you made it work. How, like, I'm so curious on those moments of of breakthrough and those snippets, uh, and things started to you then build momentum. Uh,
Well, sorry, I'm trying to get the. So your question was when did I start? Realize that I was going to be successful, or what was the?
all of that. What? Because you started that, how to win friends and influence people, and you wore the book out. You got to get a new book, Curtis. No, I'm just kidding, man. uh, um,
I
it's
love that
it's
wore out old book.
but
I always admired folks that have had you see an older guy that's got a Bible that's just absolutely shredded and pages are falling out and it's just the glue's not even holding it together anymore. But I always love to see that when somebody's just studied and gone through and really applied principles. So the same thing with the Bible, just reading through multiple times and be able to start wearing the thing out. I absolutely love that. So yeah, I'll never get rid of my old Bible or my that shredded copy of that book of that first book.
have so
But
much swagger and like poise. How did you develop more of that? And I know there was a process to it. Like there was a step by step, and then I mean, man, I'm like a young 23-year-old man. Like there's a lot of stuff that I need to learn, like in life, to be the best that I can be, which is the best service that I can give to others, and multiplying our talents, accomplishing your vision or your destiny. And that's not very traditional, but it should be. That should be the default norm for everyone.
I really appreciate that question. I appreciate the compliment. I don't think anybody's ever had said I had swagger. Um, I have, for years, I've felt like a terrible communicator, even though I've spoke at Caesar's Palace and it's pretty cool events, pretty cool venues. But surviving brain cancer, I lost the ability to communicate. I could not write. I could not, when somebody asked me a question, when the paramedics showed up and they found out, they thought I had a TIA stroke. Half my body stopped working. And during that conversation, I was trying to talk to him and tell him, listen, I'm diabetic. I just had a seizure. My sugars, just give me some sugar. But what I said was chicken, pituitary, waffle, phone charger. Like, no. I'm like, so I'm trying to say these, trying to figure out how to even communicate, how to finish a sentence or how to get my thoughts out. And you'll hear right now, I still stumble over my words a lot.
Notice it.
I'm working on it, but
That's important to know.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I do
It's real.
Toastmasters weekly class and take every possible opportunity to speak. So that was one of the things that really for me started helping out was going. I am having a heck of a time even having a one-on-one conversation with somebody. So I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to start interviewing these leaders and try to figure out how to just on that regular, consistent, daily communication, whether it's being a guest on podcasts or interviewing other folks on podcasts, getting up and every time there's a community event, if it's a local thing, I spoke at the courthouse, I've spoke in all over different states, but just taking those opportunities and forcing yourself to continue growing is the way that you'll become a phenomenal communicator. And I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. So I appreciate the compliment. That was a great question.
Thank you so much for everything and more. I appreciate you. Okay, let's see. When it comes to being able to develop your communication skills, you had brain cancer and then you overcame that and you had a victory in that. And when was it that you started? Is that when you started to develop your communication skills? Because you started off when you were like 13 with How to Win Friends and Influence People, as one of the books that come highly recommended, along with Think Like a Leader, with a lot of the success that you have now with one of your products. How is it like for everyone on the outside being able to go to you now as a trusted source? What are some other things that when you began to continue developing communication skills, you were able to rebuild them to the point where it's like it's seamless. Nobody could know anything from the past, and then they'd have to maybe watch the show or go on your website and being able to just see you get me more of who you are, and then being able to be in their walks of life all around. Is this possible? Oh my gosh, this actually is possible. I actually could become successful. I actually am worth something. I actually could do something. Oh my God, this like, and then you broke out of all of that a while back. It's like, so when was it that you continued to develop, I guess, like your that went to develop your communication skills even further and the mindset for it? Because I think if you have your mindset nailed and your communication skills, you can continue to be best. And we always want to upgrade everything that we have, very, righteously, but with humility. When we have people of influence around us that we could learn from, that have gone down the road, that have wisdom that they've like picked up along life and stuff that they can be able to help other people being able to discover in themselves with their ability, their greatness, their uniqueness and that superpower of theirs. Yeah.
So that's a good question as well. I know I keep saying that, but you've got some phenomenal questions. So I didn't actually start becoming a communicator or working on becoming a communicator after the brain cancer. I started that, I started my first business when I was a young kid. I had one summer I got to go spend a summer at my mom's house, and just a phenomenal, really cool experience. But I have always kind of been that business minded entrepreneur. And at 13 years old, I went and started a little lawn mowing company, bought a used lawnmower that didn't work, figured out how to get the thing running, tied that to a string of rope on the back of my bicycle and rode it up and down the street to, in this retirement community, mowing people's lawns. But I realized back then that the better that I could communicate and the better I could present myself. So I'd go out mowing lawns. My grandma took me to a thrift shop and I bought a pair of slacks and had the button-up shirt and stuff. So I'm mowing people's lawn, looking like a little businessman, and that was just great in the retirement community, because here I'm knocking on people's doors and telling people I do yard work or mow their lawn or whatever. And when they ask what the price was, I'd say, "Well, I'll work for you all day, and then whatever you think I was worth, you can pay me. Just pay me what you think I was worth." But just presenting myself as a professional. And I think just being a 13-year-old kid and looking like a little businessman, these older folks respected that, and that was kind of a big thing to help. Just figuring out that if I present myself as a professional, as a leader, it's going to help out. And so, went from that, my first company at 13 years old, just mowing lawns and stuff. And I built up a number of companies where I had a, cosmetic medical laser clinic, a pharmaceutical company, a company that manufactured supplements and distributed supplements to companies like Bally's, Total Fitness, and, gyms all over the country. And I'd become very successful sponsoring events at the Denver Coliseum and, MMA fights and stuff. I had pro bodybuilders, IFBB pro bodybuilders, the Denver Nuggets dancers, the Denver Broncos cheerleaders, quite a few really cool folks that I was working with. And then after I had already built these successful companies, was diagnosed with brain cancer, started having seizures, 7 to 10 times a week. And that was, I was just so busy. I didn't really take time to figure out what was going on with the seizures. I just figured it was part of the diabetes. But I finally had that one where I ended up, unable to move, unable to communicate, half my body unable to move. And so it was very successful and then lost absolutely everything because I could not even live alone. I couldn't drive, couldn't sleep alone because they didn't know if I was going to pass away in the middle of the night. And lost absolutely everything and then had that chance to rebuild back from scratch, back from being flat broke, losing my company, losing the ability to talk and come back from there. So I think that's part of the reason I've been able to be such a inspirational business coach to many folks is because everybody deals with junk. We all deal with crap in our life, but it's kind of it depends on, the successful people focus on where they're going and not the past and the stuff that they've gone through or, what they're going through right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people focus on the past to build their future. And then they don't know that you can literally build a brand new reality by putting yourself in rooms that are probably going to grow you.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so you didn't come up with a lot. Then you had the world, and then you get me. You had a lot of stuff hitting the fan all at once, and then do you believe in trees like a lot like in God? Because like I know not everyone
Absolutely.
does. You get me?
Absolutely.
So I actually water it down for people, which is kind of funny. In a way
And
where it's
hey,
like I
stop
put my
doing
own
that.
ego out of the way.
Let
Yeah.
me, quick piece of advice there. Stop doing that. If somebody does not want to be, if they don't want to do business with you, if they don't want to be a guest on your podcast, if they don't want to connect with you, if they don't want to feature you on a podcast because you're a Christian, because you believe in Jesus, or because you've got faith, if they're willing to, if they're willing to cut you out because of that faith, that's not somebody you want to do business with anyway. Right? I had an experience with that about, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago. Let's see, back in 2012 when we were launching the telecommunications company, and I knew that we wanted to launch a mobile virtual network operator. We built the company to a size where we had over 250,000 customers monthly hitting the website. But on the very first meeting with this guy, he's just not a good person. The guy that was doing the licensing, and I knew it. I flew up to Las Vegas to meet the guy I had met at a telecommunications conference, and during the meeting, we sat there, and I am flat broke. I'm telling the guy, I will scrape together whatever it takes. I'm going to make this happen, but right now I'm broke, and so on the first, and I knew it was a $50,000 implementation fee for them just to review the application. It was going to cost me $50,000, and so I show up to this meeting, and the guy comes in. He orders an $8, this thing of some kind of a fancy water or whatever, and ordered a bunch of junk. He opened it up, took one sip, set it on the table, and when the meeting finished, he got up. I hadn't ordered anything because again, I'm trying to script my pennies together, save my pennies to launch this telecommunications company. So the guys, ordered this big meal and stuff. Didn't touch it. Gets done, and he just walks off from the meeting. And so I'm left to pay the bill. And I had mentioned God and mentioned my faith and stuff. And one of the things when we were talking about launching with our Performa is saying everybody was offering unlimited data, but they all had a hidden data cap. And so I'm saying we're going to offer these plans, but we're going to offer, every plan will have different data caps, and we're going to tell people exactly where there are. We're not going to lie to them and say that is unlimited, and then you went over your the reasonable usage policy. But during that conversation, this guy that was very successful financially, but just not a good person, he said, "Well, you can't tell people, you can't be honest with people if you tell them there's actually a cap. You're legally protected. Just tell them it's unlimited, and then when they hit it, then they'll find out later." I said, "That's not the way we're going to do business. We're going to be honest." And he said, "Well, it's your funeral." I said, if we go out of business because we're being honest and being ethical and telling people the truth, we were in the wrong business anyway. But I said that, and we still cut the guy the check for $50,000. We spent multiple millions of dollars with this guy. Had ended up losing hundreds of thousands over the course of the business because of the guy's dishonesty. But if I'd have just gone, hey, I'm going to launch a different business. I'm going to sign up with a different network operator, whatever the or network enabler. I would have been so much better to not ever do business with this guy that was a atheist, not a good dude, just not a good dude, But I still went ahead and did business with the guy that I knew we weren't on the same, we weren't equally yoked. And so that's one thing I would just say is in the future, I would never do business with somebody that I knew was not on the same ethical level that I was. So that's my advice to you. If you'll take it, is don't water it down. Don't water down your faith. Don't not talk about Jesus because you think it's going to offend somebody. If they're offended, it's probably not somebody you want to do business with anyway.
That's a wonderful story, and I think it's a remarkable example of what true success is because you were able to you just had integrity, man. Like you were just real with people, people were real with you. And because of that, homie, like everybody's gonna grow, everyone's gonna prosper. They're eating good, we're eating good, everyone's eating and like they're the best that they can be at every moment, you know. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, you get me? Because I think those people will eventually go out of business at some point. I had some guy that told me at a training once that they don't always get caught. I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like it well, it's on you, dog. Like if you're cool with that, that's cool, man. But like at the end of the day, man, like do you want to just have a short-term play or like do you want longevity? And then, you do you, man. I'm gonna keep doing me and I hope you win, dog. Christ Jesus. With the Holy Spirit over you and God's judgment over you and Jesus over you. Because I want you to win, bro.
And the God's
Sometimes he'll
judgment
correct
thing
his
you
children.
mentioned is the God's judgment thing that you mentioned there is not a you
Not a
may
bad thing.
this guy was very successful for years. He stole literally tens of millions of dollars from multiple companies and just about got us as well. But that's the same thing. He's going to have to answer to his choices for, not being ethical and honest. And I mean, there's a lot of people that ended up bankrupt because of this guy. But like I said, you may be successful financially here on Earth, but you're going to have to answer to that when you're done. So I agree
How
with you on
did you
that.
discover like God? Was it God that helped you break a lot of those curses or generationally? Like I don't know how deep you've like gone into the spirit. They're both real. Like the enemy, people that practice witchcraft, voodoo, you know, Jesus has the victory on the cross. And if you know how to, if you have a strong prayer life, I got like worship playing here, like because I'm with you, you get me. I'm like God, this is a divine appointment. Please make everything go okay. You get me? And I just prayed a little bit before that. Like, when was it for yourself that you started getting out and you started like going into more of like the truth, the way, and the life with like John 14:6? You get me? And that verse specifically on the outside with what you said, we will. They're both parts are real. There's a lot of Buddhists. Everyone's always talking about the supernatural. They're always talking about attraction and dating nowadays. They're always talking about like being the best. A lot of stuff. But in this, you get me having that fulfillment, and it's always free because the Bible's free. This episode's free, and it's like there's so much that we don't know that we need to learn, and then there's stuff that we do know. When was it for you that you broke out of like I guess the matrix and you dove into the spirit? Because the world you've probably heard that is worldly a lot of the time, and you're going to continue to get away from it even more and more and more because he picked you out from everybody for whatever reason, and it's because you had a plan he could use you. So for the audience, you get me, and being able to share, how was it for you? I guess like your testimony breakthrough, because you grew up, you had a lot of hard work ethic with the mowing lawns, saving money, buying books, self-investing, and it compounded over years. Then you had the telecommunications business, and in between that, there's a lot. You get me of like really intricate details. You can take it anywhere. You can spin it off anywhere that you want to go. You can take it out anywhere that you really want to go, and in a good way, on a high note, so that you can educate us, bar none. So, for your testimony, how was it like when you were able to make that breakthrough and you were able to share that with others? Like what was that like? Was that when you started like handling stuff like in the spirit and like eliminating stuff? Like how was that like, man? Like
So we all kind of go through, highs and lows where we're doing the right thing and trying to be the best Christian, best leader, best, you know, inspirational person we can. And then we have our downfalls. And
purpose and destiny.
But I think for me, that was one of the biggest things was when I was diagnosed with brain cancer and I was having constant seizures. I had lost the ability to, I mean, couldn't drive, couldn't work, couldn't live alone. And so I had to move in, lost everything. Moved in with a friend that was working, another company and working for me with another company. And so I ended up being, this was a business partner, ended up losing everything and went from being this super successful guy to now I'm sleeping on his, in his basement on the floor and,
Very
trying to figure out
successful.
how to keep going there. And,
And again,
but also realizing, as we're still trying to keep this business growing and I'm going, okay, I'm probably going to die. The doctor said I had less than 60, 90 days to live. And just going, hey, so I prayed to God that night, one night laying there in his basement where I'm like, I have lost everything. I don't want to see I don't want my mom to see me die this slow, painful death with cancer. And so I told God, I know where I'm going. I know I'm going to heaven. I know I'm saved. I know Jesus died for my sins. And I, I am more than comfortable dying here, but I don't want to die this long, slow, painful death where, I'm losing the ability to connect with folks and stuff. And I don't want my mom to see me going through the chemo and radiation, all these things. So God, please, when I'm out for a walk today, whatever, tomorrow morning, let me get hit by a car, let me get struck by lightning, somehow end my life quick so that my mom doesn't see that slow, painful death where that's what she remembers me for. So, let it be a straight car, let it be whatever. Please kill me quick so my mom doesn't see that. And God didn't listen to my instructions. I guess we try to do that a lot of times where we tell God how to run his empire, but luckily he didn't didn't take my advice there. Um, yeah, I'd say that was just the laying there that night when I'm talking to God and then feeling going, hey, you're going to be healed. I'm going to take care of you. And so I'm still kind of arguing back, going, it wasn't like an audible word, but I could feel that
spirit. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
it's not the end here. And
Some
so
people
that's kind
call
of
it
thing
your
where,
intuition and how great entrepreneurs are able to tap
yeah,
into that and then just, they have breakthrough afterwards,
yeah,
which is really the whole
yeah. So
truth.
that wasn't. It wasn't a. I have never had an audible conversation. People say they hear God told me this, God told me that. I have never heard that. I've never heard a reply, but the answer's always opened up for me. So I don't know if. I mean, I'm sure people do actually hear a conversation with God if they say they do, but I've never had that. It's just always been stuff progresses in the right direction and doors open, and so I pray and I try to listen, and maybe I'm just not at a point right now where I can hear that audible voice back from him. But
Everyone has access to the Holy Spirit, Jesus and God. Nobody ever has to go to anybody else, by the way. And I think that's a very good thing. That's a very empowering thing because there's a lot of people on the outside that will try to be kind or pleasant, but they have an ulterior motive. And like maybe they'll try to sell them something, or they're like, oh, I'll read you your cards or whatever. Like stay away from all that stuff. It's witchcraft.
yeah,
John 14:6 is really awesome. I'll jump in a Zoom call or like a phone call with everybody until I can, even more, just like for free. Like,
that's awesome.
yeah. So with that together, you get me with your like testimonial. You get me. It's amazing how you've been able to tap into something that's guiding you divinely. Like, how was it like when you started breaking? Like, you've healed completely from brain cancer, right? Like up to this point, how was it like when you started having like revival? Like you started having healing. You get me? Um, uh, and then and then now where you're speaking and stuff, to everyone really, and everyone growing.
So I didn't ever really experience that kind of instant healing. My parents took me to my mom and stepdad took me to Tijuana, Mexico, for a treatment that was not American, not approved by American doctors and stuff. But I am still on a daily basis struggling to become a better communicator. But I think you just, if you want to be a speaker, if you want to be an inspirational, whether it's a podcast host or speaking at places like Caesar's Palace, I think you just continue to keep pushing through, keep practicing. And even if you're too shy to join something like Toastmasters or, Daniel Gomez's Sticker Shock Speaking Academy, if you're too shy to get up there and do that, start going live on your cell phone, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or, YouTube live, whatever. But just start practicing and you'll continue to become a better speaker.
And then is that how did you become such an exceptional speaker, by the way? And then when it came to like your breakthrough, the healing didn't happen all at once, and then like then you had victory, which is a really important thing. You get me? Because that's like people's like that's like their livelihood, And then there's stuff a lot from the outside. Could be from an open door or something. You sometimes we gotta shut doors out for like generational curses in the past. It
Yeah.
doesn't even have to do with us. It could be like 10 generations down. Somebody started messing with a Ouija board. That spirit caught on to the next person, just kept following them, and then you gotta murder it spiritually, literally in the spirit, because it's a spirit.
Cast it out in the dry places. God says, huh?
Everything, you get me, and then revive them, and then getting just rid of that thing, like just handling it all together. I think most of the world is always moving towards like truth and light. I'm happy to have you on, and these are the conversations that I think are the most beneficial towards everybody, and then they can dive deeper with the guests and their church. You get me? Always knowing that whenever we're lost, everyone has that light, like no matter what, and and then continue to invest in yourself, be the best that you can be. It's possible in a lot of other ways, and making it work. How was it like when you started like overcoming everything? Like you had a victory at a certain point, Curtis. That's a big deal because you broke something out in the spirit. You get me, and it's protected by the blood of Christ, your past, present, and future by the finished work of the cross. So how is that like when you were able to finally get over that, handle it, and now hopefully in these next couple of years you have like 20 kids, man.
I don't know that I ever want 20 kids, but um, I love kids. I love being an inspiration, and I volunteer at the church, running one of the 5 cameras and stuff, and I volunteered with the youth groups, and I absolutely love being inspirational and trying to help mentor kids and help uplift them and stuff. But I don't think I ever want to have 20 kids.
Little mini McCoys. That'd be pretty cool, man.
Yeah, there's I'm more than happy to just be, as a business coach and a leader and an influencer, helping influence people to learn to become better mentors and hopefully better parents. I'm not going to tell somebody how to raise a kid, but I love seeing the growth that I've had with my mentoring clients, where they're learning to just have that faith in that, and learn that it's okay to have faith. It's okay to believe what you believe, and to be a Christian, be a leader. And maybe you don't have to be a Christian to make a lot of money, but you do have to follow what Christ said. To, love others, do unto others as you would want them to do to you.
Love covers a multitude of sins. And
Absolutely, yeah.
yes, and then right, and then not everyone has to like. It's hard picking up your cross, man. That's why we have to repent often, or like cover with the blood of Jesus. And then I had somebody share, it's not living a sinless life, but living a life where you just sin less and then less and less, and then
I like that.
bro, yeah, I had someone in the church share that with me. He was like speaking on stage. Yeah, I suppose he had influence. The church, he was a pastor. But to me, it's just
That's
like
awesome.
everyone has that kind of influence. Does it really matter who it is? You get me? You pick up
Yeah.
this, you have a divine breakthrough. It could be a day from one day to the next. And it's like, what does that person have to say? That person could change the whole world with that one message. Nobody would have ever known.
Well, talking about surrounding yourself with influence, the way you become successful, people ask all the time, because I wrote the book, How to Be Successful, Think Like a Leader. And people are asking, well, how do I be successful? How do I become successful? You become successful by surrounding yourself with successful people who have the same morals and ethics and values that you do, but also people that are above, and try to surround yourself with people that you would trade places with gladly. Get away from the folks that are bringing you down. That, if that's the friends that are, maybe you've got a high school buddy you've hung out with forever, you love the guy, he's just an awesome guy, but he is constantly hanging out at the bar, and he's out inviting you. He's wanting you to come hang out at the bar, wanting you to come hang out, and he's going, "Hey, check out that chick over there." You're like, "Hey, aren't you married?" "Yeah, look, she's got a nice butt." You're like, "Aren't you married?" What would you say that if your wife was sitting here? Would you say that if your pastor was sitting here? Would you say if your grandma was sitting here watching you? Is that the way that you should be living? And so if you're around folks that are not living in a way that inspires you to become better, you're going to become worse. So I would say just make that a point to make absolutely sure that you're connecting with folks that are uplifting and inspiring, and even if you're in a bad situation, say you're listening to this right now and you're a woman who's being abused, you've got a husband or a boyfriend that is just just treating you terrible, and you're afraid to get out of the situation, and you're afraid to tell somebody about it. Try to start listening, when he's at work, whatever it is, start connecting. Maybe if you don't have the courage to reach out to somebody right now, start listening to podcasts, listening to, YouTube videos, watching stuff, surrounding yourself with audiobooks, whatever it is, and start listening to where the people that, even if you never meet them, you've got these folks that are pouring into you positive, uplifting, encouraging, good messages. You'll grow and you'll become a better person just by virtually surrounding yourself with those leaders as well.
Powerful. And then you suffocate like all any kind of like outside noise. Nowadays you
Yeah.
can have headphones with your message. You get me? Because the world is that's I think all that is the enemy, all that bad stuff. Because all good things come from heaven. And
Yep.
then I think the world, if it were more in unity, we wouldn't have a lot of the mixed messages that we've really on the outside. Because we're all children of God, we're all loved. Bottom line, we were knitted in the womb, but that could be able to drift so much from like the Holy Bible, because a lot of our favorite movies growing up were like that. Like they have a kind of like storyline where it's like good versus evil, and then there's Star Wars. There's so much like out there, and then they pull it from somewhere. Where are they pulling it from? Why are they pulling it from there? Why does it catch interest? Why do you want to know more? What is that? And a lot of the time, you get me. It's what Curtis has been talking about. Thankfully, having him as a guest, you get me on the show, Life by Design. A very impressive guest.
Well, and one thing, have you read my latest book here? How to Be
No,
Successful, Think Like a Leader?
no, I have not yet.
You ought to grab a copy. I think you'll like. There's a story exactly about what you're just talking about, and I'm trying to remember which chapter here. There's 27 chapters total, but one of the things where talking about removing negative influence from your life, and this isn't to brag. It's just it was more a story of the leader
You're
that
too
that,
modest, Mr. McCoy.
that made me look like a leader. Uh, but I was on a date up in Denver. This girl that I just absolutely beautiful fitness model girl, beautiful girl, and I was so excited to be out with her. And we decided to go to a movie for our first date. We get there and walk in, get set on the theater's absolutely packed. We're the only, as we walk in, we're the last two seats, up at the top back of the theater. So we're trying to scoot in to get set down and stuff. And the movie starts out, and it goes along for a few minutes, and pretty soon there's just a string of profanity. The guy's cursing Lord's name in vain, dropping the f bomb, just over and over. And after this has happened 3 or 4 times, I stand up and I'm going, I'm going to ruin my chances with this beautiful girl. I'm a young guy that's pretty
Probably
excited to
built
be
her
out on.
attraction because you
What's
did
that?
something that was, you probably built attraction with her,
Well,
right?
no. So
Right.
I'm thinking I'm going to ruin my chance with this model that as a young guy, that was a pretty cool thing. But I I stand up and say, listen, hey, I'm not going to sit through this. If you want to go to a movie, no, another movie or whatever, that's cool. But and I get up and start walking out, and she looks over and goes, "It's just a movie." She's like, "What an embarrassing thing that this idiot stands up, to walk out of this movie that's just starting." And so I stand up, grab my jacket, and say, "You finish it out, whatever. I'll pick you up when you're done, take you home, but I'm not going to watch this." And so she's super frustrated and stuff. And as I'm walking out, she gets up and starts to follow me out. And this guy in the back starts slow, or not in the back, but this guy starts slow clapping, just as loud, you know, And pretty soon, everybody is clapping along with him. There's, I mean, dozens of people clapping along, and the theater starts emptying out. There's tons of people. I mean, probably a third of the theater stands up and walks out, following me out. And so that guy having the courage to, he wasn't the first guy that stood up, but him having the courage to clap and or he's going, okay, here I am. This girl is calling me an idiot, basically, and now so he to have the courage to also stand up and start clapping along, and go, hey, this is something I respect and admire. He made me look like the hero instead of where I'd have just looked like a weakling that couldn't have sat there through this cursing movie. So it's kind of a cool thing to man, you're the choices, the things that you do. That guy will never know. He probably never read my book. Probably never remember that. But he'll never know the impact that he made on me, and also the other folks in the theater where everybody else is going, hey, you know what? I'm not going to sit through this either. It's okay for me to get up and leave. And but choosing to not surround yourself with, I don't watch rated R movies. I don't even like the Netflix stuff. You watch a good show, something starts, there's a series where everything is just a really cool, interesting series. And almost always they continue to get worse and worse and worse. And pretty soon you're sitting there watching something that you're going, I would not allow this to happen in my living room. I wouldn't allow some woman to be raped and sit there and watch her. I wouldn't allow somebody to be screaming the F word in my living room. And so if you're watching a movie and letting that happen, you're letting that into your mind, into your heart, just like you would if it was happening in real life. So I'd say remove yourself from those type of situations if you got the courage.
That's such an inspiring thing. And then you walked away from her, and the attitude, that girl, she lost her opportunity with you at that moment is pretty much what it was, right?
Well, so she did follow me out. We left the movie, went to dinner and stuff, I think, and I don't remember the situation, but it was there was no hard feelings there. I didn't have enough confidence at the time to I absolutely did not feel like a leader. I didn't feel like I was doing anything to inspire anybody else. I was just more of a cowardly type of thing where I'm going, this is not something I want in my life. I would love to finish the date with this model, but I also don't want to, don't want to sit here through this and let that kind of negativity in my life. So no, I mean it didn't. We didn't. I'd still see her around the gym and stuff, but it ended up being a
Blew it.
yeah.
In the pickup artist community, because I actually studied this a little bit, there was a verse that they'd share. There was a line that they'd share. You can dress her up, but you can't take her out. I'm just kidding, guys. That's very worldly, but you can dress her up, but you can't take her out. And then at the end of the day, what you want essentially is marriage and all that,
Yeah.
the world. Yeah. Wow, Curtis, this is so awesome. We've like literally dove into your self story and stuff. And it's like when you do stuff like, and then that built your self-esteem and your confidence. And it's amazing how we can have that kind of impact with anybody in our lives in a day-to-day living, where it's like we're on the outside. There's a ton of people, just watching right now. Just Curtis and I, the show that we're grateful to have him on. It's a fast-growing show. It's a Christian business podcast. So it's like we could have that kind of impact and influence everywhere. And in fact, we do. We're just not aware of it a lot of the time on the outside.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're starting to walk like an influencer. Like, how do you want people to treat you? You can start building your own self-image. We can start working our beliefs. You get me? And then more things unlock and they become more possible. Any area of our lives? Yeah, man. Like those are the promises. Live action, brah.
I love that,
And
man.
heck yeah. Um, thanks for Mr. McCoy. And can you share more of your story, sir? Because you became so. What were some of your business principles and and values? You get me all around in a nut, if possible, that have allowed you that someone could model, or the ones that you'd want someone to be able to pick up on if they were smart enough to pick up on it, and they are smart enough because they're watching this, they're with you, they're into
I love
personal
that.
development. It's true. That's one of the highest forms of self-love and self-care.
Yep.
You have to improve yourself, get the weeds
Yeah.
out, have a garden, roses everywhere. So how could somebody be able to model, get me, some
So
like
I don't think anybody should model me. I
you're
mean,
a rock star, man,
I wouldn't
rock
tell
star.
you. um, I I don't think anybody should model somebody else or try to follow in their footsteps. Do your own thing, but be sure that you're taking in the advice from other leaders and incredible, successful people, people who are in a position you want to be in. And if you model your own life after the advice and the insights that you see from these other people, just like, I was lucky enough in the book to be able to interview some just absolutely incredible leaders, guys that are, make more just insanely wealthy, insanely successful, guys that have got their life figured out and doing, where I would change positions with anybody except for the two homeless guys I interviewed in there. But yeah, I just say continue that self growth, that figuring out. I mean, I am not the person today that I want to be next month, and I'll keep growing. And there may be stuff that I mentioned on this podcast where I listen back to this in a year and think, man, that wasn't the best advice, but realize we're constantly
Same.
growing, we're constantly trying to improve, and just keep that going, and you'll become a better version of what you're supposed to be right now.
And then I want to always work on my own self-esteem, getting it higher. I want to raise my own self-esteem even more. I've had a track record of accomplishing like some wins, you get me, that God has been fortunate enough to be able to allow me to have the preparation to be in those opportunities, which is a privilege. Everyone has to come correct. Um, just on a high note for everyone that they're around. You have to respect the opportunity. And it's like, I want to raise my self-esteem even more. Like Curtis is cool as heck. He has swagger. You get me? He has a tremendous way of being able to articulate ideas, paint pictures, and just communicate, communicate, communicate. And how I want to do more of that. So I'm sure a lot of the audience were probably like, at any level of business, because you've been able to work at a massive scale. We're connected with really titans in business right now. I'm just like, it's like, how how can more people do more of that in their own lives if they had like a takeaway?
So if I would, how old are you right now, Noel?
23.
You're 23 years old. Okay. So I'm 40 years old. I would give $100,000. I'd cut a check for $100,000 today to go back and be 23 again and have the confidence and the communication skills that you have right now. I mean, you were absolutely so far above where I was at that point. But again, I've covered this a couple of times in different. I'm kind of rewording the same thing, but I'd say if you keep taking every opportunity to speak, there is all kinds of local groups, if there's a local, political thing. If there's I spoke recently at the Stop the Vax or Stop the Mandate. I think it's called Stop the Mandate speech at the courthouse, and there's a couple hundred people there maybe, but I showed up outside of a city market, or, a grocery store there, and they were handing out these flyers for this upcoming protest thing that they're doing, and I was going, I'm not anti-vax. I am anti being forced to do anything that you don't believe in. So I mean, there's a lot of good vaccinations that did, great, that
Just
stopped
never
plagues
brought.
and stuff. Um,
I don't.
but
I
I
trust
don't think that
Jesus
we should
though.
be, yeah, but I absolutely don't think that we should be forced to inject something into our body. And so they're, always looking for opportunities to speak. I saw this, they had their table set up out there handing out flyers and say, hey, we're having an event at the courthouse. Got some speakers. The governor or the not the governor, one of the city council leaders, and there's quite a few different high level business leaders and stuff. Hospital administrators, different things speaking, and so are you looking for speakers? I said, well, we're kind of booked out, but I said I would love to speak if you got a chance, and they said, well, have you given a speech before? I said, yeah, I've spoken at Caesar's Palace and a few other venues, and a couple hundred little speeches. And he said, okay, cool. Well, yeah, I guess we could. I guess we could fit you in. How long do you need? I said, I'll speak however long you want me to. But just that opportunity, going, I knew nothing about the all the legal stuff, what was going on with the vax mandates and all that, and it wasn't something that interested me. But because there was an opportunity to speak, I went home. I studied. I spent a couple of days preparing, making sure that I had a good speech ready together. And my my plan wasn't to be there to speak about, that certain topic. It was just getting up in front of local people that was a whole lot scarier for me than speaking in San Antonio or Atlanta or San Francisco or, the in India, where I did this mobile or this virtual conference with hundreds of people. But going, okay, this is local people. There's going to be people that recognize me there, people that know me, people that, this is a scary thing compared to speaking at, some random event where, across the world where I'll probably never see these people again. But I took that opportunity, and that was one where I think it was just a huge thing to really kind of force me to grow. Like, okay, talk about getting out of your comfort zone. Talk to people that you're going to see around. You're going to see at the grocery store, at the coffee shop, those kind of things. Make it real awkward, but just keep taking every opportunity to speak. And I mean, there's Facebook groups. There's all kinds of different places where you can find upcoming community events, and get up there and make sure you know the subject you're to speak about. I mean, study like I did a couple of days. Study and make sure I knew everything about the topic, so that I wasn't just some idiot up there talking, but I knew the subject. And that's my biggest recommendation if you want to become a speaker is start speaking.
Wow. And then you had to work out of your comfort zone. And then you started developing your communication skills at an early age. And then you had this thing where it's like down, we started where we start, then up, you went high.
Yeah.
Then the enemy tried taking you out, and then you dismantled it. I'm going to send you something really cool after this, by the way.
Cool.
And then afterwards, you were able to just bounce up again. And then, so how to be successful, think like a leader, developing success and motivation, inspiration, success after failure, learn to send the right message using nonverbal communication, and become an excellent conversationalist. How I want to improve my body language. What is good body language to have in a business setting?
Man, I wish I could have been taking notes here because I would like to use your body language instead of what I'm doing here. I would say if you guys are looking to improve your body language, watch Noel's podcast, YouTube, whatever it is, and figure out. But just like I said, that's again, I would cut a check for $100,000 right now if I could trade places with you and have the confidence and the communication skills that you've got at your age.
I've worked really hard on them. Thank you a lot. It means a lot coming from you, Mr. McCoy. I want to be the best that I can be, and then and everyone
Curtis.
Around me is going to win because of that.
Love that.
They're going to catch the overflow, and I'm going to intentionally make sure that they are winning. So,
love that, buddy.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Thank you, Curtis.
Man, you
I
can
can
just
call you
call me
Curtis.
Curtis.
Is that cool?
Yeah, I tell everybody,
Live action, brah. Thanks, Curtis. Thank you, man.
Yeah, if you Google me, it's M Curtis McCoy. My books and stuff, they introduce me when I'm speaking as M Curtis McCoy. But I tell people, friends and family call me Curtis, and you can too. We're friends now, right, Noel?
Yes, we are friends. I had Peter Galetta. He was one of the Strat Knights. He messaged me one time, and he's like, "Call yourself Noe Zapata. Don't call yourself Noe Zapata anymore." And he had something very similar. I don't remember where I was going with it, but he shared that with that. Thank you so much for allowing me the privilege to be in a room with you. You get me. I'm always going to continue to be a vessel for others, just putting the kingdom just first and trying to expand it in the best way that I know how. 23-year-old and growing. And a lot of the people in the Bible, it doesn't matter what timeline they're in, God will just pull them aside and use them. But you have to act on that, your vision, that's your purpose, your destiny. It's going to talk to you. Don't do that. Go here. And when we listen to it, when we don't listen to it, a lot of bad things typically happen. It's like, dang it, I knew it. I had something, and then you let the Spirit talk to you, man.
Yeah.
And that'll just destroy every roadblock now, and you're by the fire of the Holy Ghost, the fire, right? And then the blood of Christ will protect you. And look, man, now you're operating on a different level, man. You got the Holy Bible, dog. Just God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. Nothing else, bro.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you're listening to this and you have not read the Bible yet and you're really not sure about whether this whole Jesus thing is true or not, get in and read Mark, Luke, and John. One of the things that really helps a lot of folks with that is it's almost like, these guys are, it's kind of like if you watched, if you had three people watching a car crash and they each had to give a police report at the end, each one of them are telling the same story, but they're all seeing it from a little bit different perspective, different point of view. So if you haven't read through the Bible yet, there's all kinds of good plans on the YouVersion Bible app. There's, you can do the Bible in 90 days as far as even an audio version that you can read through. But
When I go through the Bible.is
cool. But that's a lot of work. So if you're not ready to commit
audiobook.
to reading the entire thing yet, Old Testament to New Testament cover to cover, read Mark, Luke, and John, and just that'll be a good kind of introduction to let you know who is this Jesus guy. Why should I even care that this guy that died 2,000 years ago? Why should I even care about the story? Read that, and that'll help you get connected and kind of learn why it's important to you. I sure appreciate you having me on the show today.
I'm like, is he gonna go in more? Don't hold back, Curtis. How
Yeah,
do you
that's
want to
all I
end
got
it?
there.
How do you want to end it, sir? So you could have like, I guess like the final thoughts and final words. I typically had this with your information on it. I didn't have it today, but I will post it in the comment section because I don't put my own stuff on. I usually put the guest stuff on.
Oh, cool. Mine is
You're in good
really
hands,
easy.
so you're good. Let me
Yeah,
write it
so
out for you,
and,
please.
and you don't even need to. I mean, you can write just the username, but
I gotta find
it's
it.
M Curtis McCoy, one word. I mean, no spaces. So capital M, capital C, and just like you would spell McCoy, but M Curtis McCoy. You can also Google me. I'm featured on the Google Knowledge Panel, or you can go to mcurtismccoy.com, or mcm.team has a link of all the social platforms I'm active on, as well as the Amazon Fire TV show and the books. So mcm.team.
Then the website is Mr. Curtis McCoy. Mr.
No,
McCoy.
no, it's
Curtis. M. Curtis McCoy, yes.
mcurtismccoy.com. But just Google, if you Google M. Curtis McCoy, like I said, I'm on the Google Knowledge Panel, and they've got my social links featured on Google as well.
You have a Twitter, a Facebook, a YouTube, and a TikTok. I know you shared it really quickly. I'm gonna put this in the description though, so I could do whatever it is that you'd like really gladly. I could put it up here, and then
Cool.
because typically we usually have this like at the beginning, and I usually put all your stuff out, and then on my part, you get me. I'm gonna put that in the description so they can put it up, and it'll be like one of the first ones up there, and then it'll go into your story. I'll make
So,
it nice. It's gonna. I'm gonna polish it up so it can be like it's like something that could be like lasting forever, like an immortal episode, where it's like it's just greatness, it's just goodness, it's truth, and because of that, like everything else just like worked itself out, and the right
sounds
people
good,
found
brother.
it.
Yeah, so username, any social platform you're active on, that's because now I'm full time. All I do is, I've got the show on Amazon TV that I host out of a studio in my house and write books, and that's, do some consulting. But because I've got a lot of time now to kind of do my own thing there, I've been working on, all the social platforms. I'm active pretty much everywhere under M. Curtis McCoy. So Instagram.com/ M. Curtis McCoy, Twitter.com/ M. Curtis McCoy, Facebook.com/ M. Curtis McCoy, LinkedIn.com/N/M. Curtis McCoy. LinkedIn's got a weird little thing there, but you can look on YouTube if you search best motivational speaker in Colorado. I think I'm the number one result on YouTube. I sound like I always sound stuck up when I'm talking about
No, this is
being
actually
featured and
good.
stuff, but
I think most people can derive inspiration because they're gonna be able to, on the outside, just really see that this is like possible a lot of the time. You get me? Because people could learn. I'm sure I can put you up like toe to toe with like maybe an FSU professor, and I mean you have a lot of real world experience. You have systems, you have stuff that you can build that is duplicatable. Where if a person were to come to you and if they were to really listen to you and act on that advice, they would be able to expand their own lives. You get me? Simply by just being a person that listens to someone
I love
that
that.
you can tell that has wisdom and knowledge, and it's like a blueprint. So it's not like, yes, you're going to have your own flair and uniqueness to it, that's from above, use that, but it has a model that works. It's a blueprint. It's like, I
Yep.
did this, it got me that. 2 + 2 is, the audience will say 4, right?
Well, and here's the thing that, the reason I'm able to consult with, I've owned a cosmetic medical laser clinic, pharmaceutical company, Christian clothing company, telecommunications company with 250,000 customers a month, some successful businesses. But the reason that I consult with you know restaurants and a hot dog, there's a guy that was turning his hot dog business into a franchise out of Denver, and coffee shops. There have been multiple coffee shops, a coffee roaster, guys that are investors, all kinds of different folks. The reason that I'm able to consult and provide value to these other folks is not because I know anything about roasting coffee, but because the principles that work for becoming successful in pretty much any business can transfer over to other businesses. So getting that insight, getting that outside look, that outside perspective. And I'm not even telling anybody hire me as a coach, but if you've got a business, you've got something you're trying
They
to become
could,
more
right?
successful. Well, I've got a limited. I've only got four. I've got four coaching slots available right now that are left. So I probably don't have. I'm pretty picky about who I take on as clients as well. So I mean, if somebody wants to reach out, if they're interested in becoming a client, they can message me on any of the platforms or MCurtisMcCoy.com. But the point of that was not to sell myself as a coach, but there are all kinds of different coaches and business leaders who you can take great insight from and learn how to become more successful. So you don't have to hire me, but get a hold of a business coach, a business leader, somebody
They
that can
could.
help you, and you'll become more successful by taking that that influence from somebody who's already done what you're trying to do.
And they're gonna help instill confidence in you and all that.
Yep.
And it's so much more than that. 'Cause sometimes people are like, "What's the quick fix?" It's
Yeah.
you have a lot of problems, right? Yeah, this
Yep.
guy could help you solve a couple of them. For real,
And I do have
in a good way.
so I don't have the spots. I'm not going to have the spots open for a lot of the private coaching, and that's probably not financially reachable for a lot of your audience yet. But I do have a plan where it's $100 a month. You can get on and do the broadcast messaging. So we use Voxer, and people can get in and sign up, and that doesn't mean you can I'm going to fly out and meet you once a month and do a consulting session. But with the Voxer app, you can get on there and send me a message and, do the walkie-talkie app, the push-to-talk kind of thing. And if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you want to send a message saying, hey, I've got some kind of an issue with my business, or I've got an idea on Instagram marketing, or I need some help on this, you can send that message. And then the notifications come in when my schedule opens up in the morning. So I'll reply back when I've got time. So a lot of folks are getting into that as well for a lot lower cost to be able to get that insight without having to fly me out to a location for a consulting session. That'll be
That's
available on MCurtisMcCoy.com as well.
that's awesome. And you also have a TV show though. You're on Amazon Fire TV.
Yep.
Can you talk about that, please? Like on the outside. I mean, if that's cool, like just a couple of secrets, a couple of nuggets. Um, uh,
So those wouldn't be nuggets for me. That's the whole point of the show. It's called Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. If you're looking at this on YouTube, you look at the screen right now behind me. That's the actual show right there. But Success, Motivation, and Inspiration on Amazon Fire TV. And that's not where I'm sharing my own insights, but I'm interviewing other incredible leaders and entrepreneurs and people who have been very successful in their own fields and having them share their insights on how to be successful.
thank
But
you
check it
so
out
much.
if you want. Yeah.
So I hope you guys are doing amazing. Curtis, thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate you. And I hope that these guys go ahead and follow you at M Curtis McCoy. You have a lot of knowledge and wisdom. I'm gonna look into one of the books, pick one up because I love self-investing a lot. And
So
I
go to
think it's the
how.
best way to learn from
Yep.
others. Like so it's like Curtis created all the success. You get me. He has a lot of stuff that he's overcome. He has a lot of he has like a solid foundation that's like a bulletproof mindset. And it's just like how do you develop that? So you can rewatch the episode. I'm gonna pick up most likely a copy of one of these books. And for everybody else, uh, thank you so much.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll send you a link to get the direct link for the book there on Amazon.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Thank you, Curtis. Everybody
Thanks again,
else,
brother.
we will
Have a good
catch
day.
you
Thanks for having
guys
me on your show,
on the next episode of the Life by Design podcast.
the Life by Design podcast. I'm gonna check that out as well. I'll
Keep it
be sure to
real.
subscribe.
Let's go.